Yeah, and here we go, the 2v2 lineups, and Cream Real Betis sticking with what's worked. SK Gaming going back to the classic, the German duo, Sam and Morten.
Wow.
Together again, so not sticking with the Javi-Sam combo.
Yeah, very, very surprising here. We're actually seeing the same bans that we saw in our first match of the day. Cream Real Betis banning the minor, SK Gaming taking off Tornado from play, and yeah, this is fascinating. You know, Javi and Sam were playing really, really well together, and Javi would still be available for 1v1 sets. So here we go. The bait is flying. Let's go. Match 2, set 1.
Very aggressive opening from Morten and Sam, and you know, Andrew, one thing to think about with this change is it might be that Sam and Morten are still the ace 2v2 duo for SK, but in those last two matches, they just felt like they needed to put Morten in the 1v1, and that was the main reason for the switch. Here in this best-of-5 format, Morten can play a 1v1 set and still be in 2v2.
Yeah, that's a very, very strong point you make, and it's looking like the quad bait here from these four gentlemen. Mega Knight comes out, Skelly Barrel up front to tank for that Mega Knight, but gonna need something on the back end to clean up those little areas.
Snowball does come in, but not before SK Gaming takes a slight lead, and Princess being completely uncontested on the left-hand side until that Musketeer comes down. So lead in both lanes right now for SK Gaming.
Yeah, had to wait just a moment for that Musketeer to get behind the Pekka if it would cross the river, so taking a lot of damage on that left-hand side, but here you go, getting a little bit of blow back on the right.
That Mega Knight pulled so much defensive duty on the Goblin Barrel, the Skeleton Barrel, and the Musketeer. Huge Mega Knight for SK Gaming.
Yeah, so looking very, very close to what we would call a mirror matchup here. Delivery comes in, pushes that Skelly Barrel back, but Goblins on the tower, and a lot of damage coming in from those Goblins.
Skeletons do not add anymore, but the damage is done. 925 right-hand side to 1293. Remember, at this moment, though, SK Gaming does have better lane switching ability, and that's a ton of damage on the right-hand side.
Yeah, you know, they were so focused on the Dark Goblin at the river, it seemed like Cream maybe overspent on the Dark Goblin, not enough on the back end, and now that's going to be towered down for SK. Cream firing back, however.
Princess Bats keeping it close enough, 480 on the right-hand side, so this gets challenging, Andrew, because what kind of direct damage do you have on that right-hand side if you have the spell cycle while you can still play defense?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how aggressive SK is in this final 37 seconds, knowing that this is most likely going to be a two-tower game, really probably wanting their opponents to commit a ton of elixir on the right. There it is. They basically sack the tower with some bats. Oh, no, they don't. The delivery comes in and cleans it all up.
And that ended up taking 0 damage, Andrew. So now, Cream in a lot of trouble.
Here we go. They have to spend all out again on that right-hand lane. This should be tower down. Yes, it will be, but now you see the Inferno Tower set up on the left-hand side. Pekka off the board. SK should be back in the driver's seat here when it comes to offense.
Here we go. Now starting to spell cycle and put a lot down on that left-hand lane. SK Gaming starting to pull ahead as we go into sudden death overtime. Ahead on damage, ahead on elixir. Can they close this one out?
Here we go. Maybe a high Pekka. Nope, it's going to go Mega Knight instead, right? Mega Knight on top of Mega Knight. Poison in, offensive poison, and a second Mega Knight comes down here for SK. They are going all out.
Barrel goes to the front, not to the back, so the Skeletons in the back do not help out. And now a small counter push coming in, loading up Goblin Barrel, but the Princess to the opposite lane will help with the Skeletons.
And look at that. Once again, the Royal Delivery paying dividends. 3 incredible elixir used to take about 20 off the board. It felt like crossing the river there for SK. But now their lead is dwindling just a bit.
Approaching that final minute, about 800 HP ahead is SK Gaming. Cream Real Betis trying to put the pressure on. Some decent poison value will come in. A little bit of chip damage there, but now a healthy Mega Knight, Skeleton Barrel, and Bats going the opposite direction.
Yeah, the poison value needs to come in here for SK, and there it is. On top of the Dark Goblin, on top of the Musketeer, on top of the Princess Tower, and now giving them a healthier lead, about 400 HP on the board.
And this delivery has been the absolute MVP for SK Gaming, Andrew. The number of times it's worked on that double bait push has been huge.
Yeah, truly the great equalizer in this matchup. And here we go, 2 Mega Knights down. Will we see a Blitzkrieg? Will they sell out and go for the win right here? Pekka going to make it more difficult.
Second Inferno Tower down. Princess trying to support. Goblin Barrel in on the left-hand side for Cream Real Betis. Gets nothing on that tower. King Tower and Skeletons able to help out, do it again this time, and just not able to create any significant damage here, Andrew, in these final 10
It's
seconds.
all about the Inferno and the Royal Delivery. You called it with the delivery, but that Inferno basically making that P.E.K.K.A useless on the board. SK just barely steals this one. 175 damage difference. Sam and Morten back on top. Set closes out. Will Cream fire back in game 2, or will Sam and Morten with the bait take this victory once again?
And Sam and Morten are really enjoying that split barrel open. They've done that now both games in a row. Very curious to see what they like about it. If it's just that they probably don't have all of their barrel counters in hand to open.
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's one of those things where they're taking the RNG and using it to their advantage. There is a very, very good chance that your opponent does not have both the responses for barrels if you have both barrels in your opening hand. So seeing that they had them in their opening hand 2 games in a row, they get damage on the map both times.
High Fireball to deal with the Skeleton Barrel on the left-hand side. We'll take a little bit of chip damage anyway, and that's a -1 trade for Cream Real Betis.
Mega Knights jumping to the opposite sides of their respective boards. And a barrel in the back, a tricky barrel, 1 Goblin behind, tanked for by the Mega Knight. A great, great barrel there from SK.
This is so far has been a master class from Sam and Morten, who, keep note, have ran double bait twice. We have not seen piggies from the Germans.
I really don't like the fact that those bats did not catch the Inferno Tower. It's something that they saw out of their opponents time and time again. Last matchup, every time P.E.K.K.A crossed the river, that Inferno Tower came down. Those bats were just a step behind and made it an easy, easy defense for Sam and Morten.
Princess to the opposite lane will help with a lot of this cleanup. Don't have to even spend a whole lot spell-wise on defense. Snowball able to clean things up. 1243 right-hand lane to 934, and this Princess will do some damage on the left-hand side.
Yeah, so not quite in as big of a hole as they were in game number 1, our Cream Real Betis' Diego E. and Yirai, but would be really nice for them and their squad to have a lead at any point in the 2v2 set.
So a very big difference in how they're both handling these skeleton barrels. It's been Sam and Morten mostly handling them pretty close to tower, letting them fall and getting them cleaned up there, where Cream has been trying to deal with those barrels high.
Ooh, and that was just a little bit of a mistiming on the double barrel there from Sam and Morten, allowing that log to get a +4 trade. And now we finally see the Inferno Tower coming out from Cream, but right into their opponent's Inferno Tower, a waste of 5 elixir.
And the Princess not picked up, so that's 2 shots by the Princess. 339 on the right-hand lane.
Mega Knight high, Royal Delivery low. And this is going to be tower down for Cream. You can see they're just going to sacrifice the tower, maybe try to go on offense, but there's too little, too late.
Snowball trying to make some room. Poison in as well. Those skeletons will not get to tower. That's going to be a GG, well played, clean 2-0 from Sam and Morten.
We've seen that in both matches.
Belican versus Sergio Ramos. I mean, I'll call this right it is. It's a classic Clash Royale matchup. Let's go ahead and jump on in. Best of 3 in our set number 2. The Brit and the Spaniard going head-to-head. Or, sorry, the Brit and the Mexican.
Yeah, this is like a Legends match. This is amazing. So here we go. Belly and Sergio. Flashback.
Belly, of course, as we've talked about before, took some time off from CRL to finish school, but stayed active in CCS and in the Orange Crown League as well. And Sergio Ramos, after winning the CCGS World Championship, kind of disappeared from the Western scene for a bit, but was over with Nova Esports and CRL China for a couple of seasons for the 2018 run, and then back here with SK Gaming as a part of this big powerhouse roster. And he's a guy who's just so calm and confident consistently. And that's been a big part of why he's been a part of rosters, even when he's not been as active comparative to the rest of his team.
And that was a really, really nice Royal Delivery from Belican, recognizing that his opponent was most likely going to drop those Royal Hogs. However, still not able to mitigate a lot of the damage. And Sergio Ramos, in a very, very nice lead. Magic Archer will get one more shot in. 800 damage in the lead is SK.
Double bait for Belly up against this fireball bait for Sergio Ramos. And so far up to the task, that Goblin Cage going to be a big part of the defense against the Skeleton Barrel as time goes on.
And if you're kind of scratching your head wondering, I swear, have I seen these guys this season? Well, you've seen Belican once, but this is Sergio Ramos' season debut here in 2020.
Yeah, it's wild to think of how little you've seen both of these two guys play. Belican was such a huge part of the Team Queso CRL EU Championship back in 2018, but so far, really, it's just been Diego Irai and the fantastic 1v1 play of Pedro that's really carried them, not to mention Diego E's big King of the Hill sweep to put them through into play.
So here we go. Royal Delivery going to be on top, coupled with that log, going to mitigate those hogs 100%. So Sergio Ramos going to maybe need to be a little bit quicker on the draw with that Heal Spirit if he wants to connect. But it's going to be very, very tough because you got to get that Heal Spirit to pop on something to heal those piggies.
So again, you see the Goblin Cage high to stop that Skeleton Barrel, but the run behind it is just too much. Dark Goblin gets on tower, tower down, St. Belican now with the lead with only 25 seconds left.
And I love what Belican did there. It was the log. He recognized on the last offensive sequence that he had that when Sergio Ramos played his cannon cart back behind the tower, his knight was able to connect. So what does he do? He sells out, logs again, makes sure nothing is going to be in the way, and he gets a clear path to the Princess Tower. Sergio Ramos, defending twice the same way, gets picked apart by St. Belican.
So we do see Zappies make their debut after the recent buff, the second set of this quarterfinal.
One thing we haven't spoken of enough is that Sergio didn't really have a great matchup, obviously, right? He didn't have a way to clean up the barrel or the Skelly Barrel completely effectively. I believe it was Poison was his spell and then Heal Spirit, so...
Royal Giant aggressive from Belican to open up, and you see Sergio Ramos maybe going back to the exact same thing this time. Fireball gets the Magic Archer off, and Belican out to another good start.
Yeah, Skelly's going to mitigate this very, very well, and yeah, nice start for Belly indeed.
So this one will be interesting as time goes on, assuming that he's running the Fisherman Hunter version against the same Royal Hogs deck. You have so many fireball targets between the Zappies, the Magic Archer, and of course the Royal Hogs.
So King Tower activation not going to be in play on this sequence. Maybe we see a high split Royal Hogs, but that obviously will be very, very predictable. So here he goes, all in on the right-hand side. And great poison value here for Sergio Ramos.
What does he have for this Royal Giant? Behind a little bit on Elixir right now. Cage comes in high on this one, bats behind. This Royal Giant should do some significant damage in that left-hand lane.
And then the Heal Spirit last second bats behind. That is a massive, massive blow for Sergio Ramos to take and Belican to deliver.
It's just going to be difficult for Sergio Ramos to win some of these bridge battles here. You know, you have the Cage delivery combination, but against Royal Giant, not quite as effective as others. We'll see what he sets up on. He's going to take a few more Royal Giant shots on that left-hand side, Andrew. So the question is, how can he create enough damage to make this thing a fire?
Also, when you look at the things, or the cards, and the Skellies, the Heal Spirit, and the Bats, there's not a direct way to get those all off the board, so Belican can really, really kind of cycle those however he'd like, and then see how Sergio wants to respond. I mean, look how long those Bats are staying on the board.
This is what he needs, Andrew. He does have a healthy cannon cart, so now we'll see if Sergio goes opposite lane, and he does.
So Hunter plus Log, I'm sure, on the right-hand side. There's the Magic Archer to line things up and get a little bit of chip damage in.
And now you do have an Elixir lead for Sergio Ramos, so exactly what he needs to do is prevent too many shots from the Royal Giant, have a healthy cannon cart, get some good DPS on there, and create counterpunches.
Yeah, so here we go. High Goblin Cage to deal with this Royal Giant. Fireball comes in, opening up a space for, of course, the Royal Hogs. Royal Hogs, though, going to come down on the right behind the Zappies as opposed to in front.
And that's tower down on the left-hand side. 12 seconds left. Looks like it's going to be a clean 2-0 sweep for Belican here in our second set. Big win, great deck choices, and Cream now ties things up in set number 2.
Sergio just not able to...
Versus OP Sam. This should be a good one, folks. Let's go ahead and get that one kicked off.
Yeah, Pedro has put an incredible season together, taking out 2-0 sets against Anaban, Lindsay, Igor, and again, he's the only person that's taken a game off of Jupiter King this season.
Well, Pedro's a phenomenal player and had a great showing in CRL Latin America, and then couldn't find his way to CRL West. And spent some time over with Kicks in the East. Continued to show how good he can be, and finally this season, finding a West team and able to make that, put all those pieces together and get here in a division that really wanted to see him for a long time.
I was going to say, so we're going to see Royal Giant here coming out for Pedro, and now with the big damage dealer in the barrel off the board, Skeleton Barrel comes down. Pedro decides to go Royal Giant in the back.
You can go ahead and just log that, get a ton of value there, so 2 takes 6 off the board. Royal Giant nicely set up, and that's a very far Inferno Tower. Bats able to get some of that damage taken away from the Royal Giant.
And those bats were played, they even felt like they were held on to for a second. Pedro's like, all right, let's let the RG have a couple more steps. Now I'll drop the bats, and that's what I was looking for in that 2v2 earlier.
So Pedro up a little bit. An elixir in the hole, +4 on the board, so a 5 elixir advantage right now for the Cream player from Venezuela.
And I'll be really curious to see if Pedro starts to use the log for the Skeleton Barrel and then the Hunter for the Goblin Barrel.
Well, the Hunter can do it, but what you just saw right there, if he can continue to get that Skeleton Barrel to pop early, Heal Spirit's fine. Heal Spirit's more than sufficient on defense, so every time he can spend that 1 to defend that 3, that's a big advantage for Pedro.
For sure, and then the interesting moment there for Pedro is, do I get to use my Heal Spirit on offense to support this Royal Giant having to deal with the Inferno Tower? So there you go. Hunter played perfectly. That's exactly how you want to do it. No damage in. Huge counter push. Very, very nicely played.
Skeleton Barrel going to the left-hand side, but it's going to reset with the Royal Giant, knowing Inferno Tower is out of cycle. On the right-hand lane, 2 Fishermen and a Hunter, and again, Heal Spirit able to clean up most of that damage on the left-hand side.
And Hunter behind, or excuse me, Fisherman behind, pulling everything into that Hunter blast. Hunter should still get a shot here because of those skeletons. No, it actually does not, but a very, very nice sequence there for Pedro.
Pedro firmly in control as we go closer and closer to sudden death overtime, final 15 seconds.
There you go, Fireball in, Heal Spirit down again. That Heal Spirit doing a great job against those Skelly Barrels, just like he called early on. Why not take the +2 trade every single time? We can figure out offense on our own without the Heal Spirit. Here we go.
And that one's an easy choice to log, and still with the advantage is Pedro. Sets up RG in the back this time on the left-hand side. Pops, and this time the Skeletons Heal Spirit again, able to stop things. Dark Goblin will get a few important chip shots on the right-hand side, 14-47 to 10-32. The lead definitely a bit precarious here for Pedro.
Yeah, Sam made the correct decision there to support the barrel with the Dark Goblin that time to see finally that Heal Spirit cannot just clean up. He cannot keep making these +2 trades. So I like the adjustment there from Sam. He gets a good damage on the tower because of it.
Skeletons surround, and then the Knight to come out behind. 8:31 on the right-hand side, 1:20 left.
Pedro misplays the Hunter there just a second, but doesn't matter. The barrel goes to the front of the tower, so damage done. A little bit early on the Heal Spirit, but just to keep that Fisherman alive and now to deal with these Skeletons.
And here we go, Bats behind. Nothing for the Inferno Tower. Has to log to push the Royal Giant towards the Inferno Tower here. And Bats are being tanked for by the Royal Giant. That's a ton of damage. That's going to be GG. Well played. Pedro takes game number 1.
Having
Here we go. Sam, top of your screen. Pedro at the bottom. It's going bait both sides. And both of them go out to the front.
Yep, to the front. Double log. It's a mirror.
It's probably double bait from both. That's the go-to version of bait right now. There have been some versions of log bait popular amongst other players as of late. Prince Rascal's bait's been making a bit of a comeback, of course, with that Prince buff, and classic log bait's being seen a little bit here and there, but this is the one, if you want to put pressure on, that really gets those big wins.
Really, really nice royal delivery there. You see Skeleton Barrel connecting on the right-hand side, but log comes in to clean up the little Larrys.
And notice Pedro not playing the delivery on that one, wasn't available.
So maybe we see a Skeleton Barrel. Nope, maybe Goblin Barrel. Yep, there it is, the Skelly Barrel Goblin on the left-hand side, however.
So log for the first, delivery for the second. Takes a few skeleton shots, does Sam, and the opening minute has passed. It is Pedro ahead by a few hundred HP, and that Knight adding some more damage to the right-hand lane.
Yeah, not dropping the skeletons just because it's not really necessary. Tower's basically even, 300 damage separating the two, and right hand obviously the healthier.
So you see here the delivery early to prevent the death damage from Pedro. We'll see if Sam starts making similar choices or decides instead has to log that one off, and now it's going to be log for the Skelly Barrel for the moment and delivery for those Goblin Barrels. So does he have that timing down correctly? This time he does.
And you see it. It's really important to notice that both these guys are doing the exact thing. Any time that one of those cards are played in the Skelly or the Goblin Barrel, they're not getting fancy with their defense. They're making sure they defend with either the Log or the Royal Recruit so that they're always back around and cycled. So here you go. Log's going to be available for that barrel because of the work that he put in earlier.
Here we go. Full double push on the left-hand side. Dark Goblin and Knight. So this one trying to save at least the delivery this time around. So both players on each opposite ends of the board doing some troop work, trying to create counter pushes. And again, you see Pedro does not want that Skeleton Barrel death damage to start stocking up. We'll see if Sam adjusts at all or keeps taking those drops.
That was a great sequence by Pedro to defend that basically perfectly and get in a slight counter push here. Log's going to come in with that Goblin Barrel, and that's what I'm talking about. Pedro is ahead of Sam in the cycle, just a hair. And there you go, delivery down to defend. Brilliant by Cream.
And you saw Sam went to the front with the Goblin Barrel, where the Skeleton Barrel also was, giving a lot of value to that delivery. We'll see if he splits up the placement a little bit more as time goes on, currently behind. And keep an eye on that delivery response to the Goblin Barrel, Andrew, because that delivery, when you drop it, the Recruit goes to the back of the tower, so a properly timed Dark Goblin, if that Recruit's behind, can really be devastating against that defense.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point you make, and here we go. I mean, Sam about 1,000 HP behind on that left to right-hand side. And, you know, one thing, I think we've done an incredible job with working with what we have here in 2020, but I do miss just a little bit of the player cams to see their reactions when they misplay things or when they don't have something in cycle against something like a Skelly or Goblin Barrel, because it's so devastating when you talk about morale.
We're in a very similar situation, Andrew, to one that we saw earlier today. Sam significantly far behind in a bait, in a chippy matchup. What does he do to get back in here? He has to get overly aggressive. So we'll see if he can find a way to do it that actually gets damage on tower, or if it's just that Pedro's going to be firmly in control for the next 60 seconds.
I mean, what he needs to do is make his opponent make a mistake, which is very, very difficult to do when you talk about playing against Pedro, because that's the thing with bait, right? One tricky barrel and all of a sudden 1,000 damage is on the tower, and that's something that we need to see from Sam if he wants to take it. So here we go, a little bit tricky barrel, all to the back, and they do connect, so a little bit of damage in, but still about half as much as Pedro.
But he's a little late on the delivery, playing the Inferno Tower, so down to 370. And that's the thing, is you can get that delivery timing down perfectly, but you start trying to do other stuff. You're like, I can sneak this card in before I play that delivery. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen ever, and you see the results there. This is going to be death damage on the left-hand side, down to 260. Sam in a lot of trouble, 20 seconds left. A lot of pressure in both lanes from Pedro.
Dark Goblin stacked behind that Knight there. Royal Delivery not in cycle, so he goes with the barrel. Left-hand side getting a little bit of damage in, but all very well dealt with by Pedro. Knight on the bottom right-hand tower. Pedro going to take this in overtime.
So there you go. After the 2v2 goes to SK Gaming, back-to-back 1v1 sets for Cream Royale. And that's interesting. Yeah, the defending CRL champions. And that's an interesting difference, Andrew, from last time when it was RF who had match point in set number 4 for Space Station. We felt like the pressure was more on RF in that situation against Canario than it was here, whereas here I really feel like the pressure is more on Morten than it is on Yarai. Totally. Of course, there's the set to give for Cream, but also it kind of feels like Cream has already, in many ways, exceeded expectations for this season.
Yeah, and exceeded expectations in all of their sets, especially in head-to-head play. The idea that Pedro can come back out in King of the Hill and you have to go through him and Yarai makes me feel like it is a slight advantage towards Cream because we haven't seen Javi today. If Javi came out in one of those 1v1 sets and dominated, I'd be saying something much different right now.
It's looking like it might be Graveyard potentially both directions from Morten more likely, and yep, it is going to be Graveyard from Yarai as well.
So left-hand side, that
And
Brawler!
that Brawler does not get pulled.
Oh, okay, there we go. Nice sequence there. High Knight, Brawler pulled to King Tower activation. Nothing there to catch the Inferno. Inferno Dragon burning away.
And that's Tower down on the right-hand side. Focusing on that Brawler for Jirai leaves open the possibility, and the Inferno Dragon just easily burns that down. And now I do not know how Jirai comes back into this.
Trying to do too much with too little, looking for that King Tower activation when instead could have gone with the High Knight. Ice Wizard to one tile to the right, defended both lanes. Instead tries to get fancy and loses Princess Tower and helps his opponent with damage on King.
And now Morten can just kind of sit back. He has the Archers, the Snowball, and the Valkyrie to play defense here. Set the line high with the Inferno Dragon. This is already a GG in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. And you talk about setting it high with the Inferno. You can set it high with the Valkyrie, Inferno, or the Goblin Cage. And then you said Archers, Snowball, back end with, of course, those Skeletons. This is already GG in the books. SK firing back here in the fourth set.
This is a huge one, and you see a nice counter push being built up by Jirai, but I'm not sure how much good it will do at this stage. Inferno Dragon on the opposite side of the board. Skellies to surround on the Ice Wiz.
Yeah, and that one Archer stays out of the poison, gets a little bit of damage in. Snowball comes in late. A little bit of damage done, but still 800 damage behind, and a tower behind is Jirai.
Yeah, too little too late. Jirai gives the good game, knows what happened, knows he got caught badly.
Yeah.
And just that King Tower activation, so tempting there. You know you're probably against Graveyard here. A King Tower activation is really rough for a Graveyard player to break through against. And you go, I need to get this one, but the mistake in not picking up the Inferno.
But here we go. Game 2, Jirai looking to bounce back.
Yeah, you make a mistake like that, though, Andrew, and now Tilt comes into play.
Yeah.
You know, where are you mentally after just kind of throwing a game like that?
Yeah, man, Tilt is very, very real.
That might be the truest thing in terms of not just what you said, but the emotion behind that I've ever heard on this
I was pretty
broadcast.
sure you and I were talking about tilting before the broadcast today, and I'm sure you could hear the defeat in my voice. It happened with the closing out ladder push at the end of the season, but oh man, the tilt is real, the tilt is real.
So double bait from Morten and looking like RG here for Jirai.
Man, this RG deck doesn't have a ton of great responses to get on top of those barrels immediately, but, you know, conversely, Morten doesn't have a great way of getting a lot of damage on that Royal Giant and keeping it at bay.
Well, here are some good things for Jirai. Oh, interesting. So it's minor. So it is not that RG deck. So some interesting pieces here for Jirai defensively. You can throw bats up high on the Skeleton Barrel on occasion to try to make it pop early. See the delivery there as well. Snowball if it does end up actually dropping. And then, of course, you have the Hunter, as we saw before, both the Hunter and the delivery as alternatives to being used against that Goblin
Yeah,
Barrel.
Morten, you see they're throwing out the angry face because he's not happy about what he's playing against. You talk about all those responses. Hunter to clean up the Goblin Barrel, Snowball to assist, of course, the delivery to clean it all up. A lot of great responses here for Jirai.
Snowball does its job there, 2103 on the left-hand side. Morten slightly ahead as we approach double elixir.
So Inferno Tower there to deal with that balloon. Jirai going to have to do a good job of using that miner to get inside, using the bats up high to tank for that Inferno Tower. Got to get the balloon on tower, even if it's just death damage time and time again.
Ice Golem set up on the right-hand side. Miner goes right to the Dark Goblin on the left-hand side. Skeletons protect on that Dark Goblin, so Dart able to go, and now a little bit of support here. Full double bait push, left-hand side.
Yeah, really, really great use there of the Skellies to surround the Dark Goblin. Goblin Barrel comes in just in time to allow that Dark Goblin to take that Fisherman off the board. Great sequence there for Morten.
Miner bats right-hand lane, cheap push, lots of DPS, and now it's Morten going the opposite direction. Hunter to deal with the Goblin Barrel, does it perfectly.
Yeah, great job by both players there, Jirai and Morten, looking to their opponent's mind, knowing exactly what the best offense was, played great defense, huge mitigation.
So here we go, sudden death overtime. Morten does have the slight lead, but as I've said before today, Morten's playing the chip game and Jirai's playing the haymaker game. We'll see if Jirai can land one of the big ones.
Yeah, so Inferno on that balloon, but nothing to reset on top of the miner, obviously not having Zap in his deck. Going to be very, very tough to deal with the Inferno. Got to deal with the bats, but then having that miner tank for the balloon is just going to be really difficult for Yadai to put together.
And there you go. You see the Ice Golem has to come out because the Royal Recruit was behind the tower when that delivery drops. So you see Morten trying to get that Dart Goblin value, but then it doesn't get the value, but does force out 2 more Elixir from Yadai.
You know, one thing we haven't talked about, just because it feels like it goes without saying at this point, but Morten, arguably the best bait player in the world, and we all know how much he loves playing it because he's so good at analyzing and predicting what his opponent's going to do and making them make mistakes.
Like that one right there. The Fisherman pulls the Knight in, but the Knight, instead of going to the Fisherman, goes to the tower and gets 2 massive swings. This time, though, the Bats and the Miner in on the right-hand side. This balloon has a very good chance of going all the way.
Late Royal Delivery comes in, pushes things back. Log gonna get on top of that. Goblins there. Morten calling good game. He's very, very close to closing this out. 2 logs, a Skelly Barrel drop plus, who knows? But there's no way Yadai comes back from this. Team here going with the hot hand, and on the other side of it, SK going with the tried and true. Javi Catorce back out and head-to-head going up against Diego E, who had a great King of the Hill sweep earlier this season. Of course, how could we forget? But it was over Chivas, who struggled a lot.
Javi has the 3rd most wins of any player in the King of the Hill set at 28, just behind Canario's 30, and Wings of Misfits, who we'll see tomorrow with 34.
Wings and that King of the Hill, you love to see it. A little missed time there with the balloon.
So fascinating matchup here, Andrew. We're going to see Miner Loon against that Graveyard deck coming out from Javi that we saw played earlier today.
And Graveyard down early to tank for this Inferno Dragon, hoping to make a big nuisance for his opponent with that Inferno. A great kite, however, from Diego E, taking the entire family across the river.
A nice kite from Diego E, but also a solid snowball to create a little extra damage on the right-hand side. So up by about 2, but with the half-health Hunter on the right-hand side for Diego E. Opening sequence, blood drawn on both sides as we pass the first minute and 20.
Man, that was one of the better Ice Golem kites I think I've ever seen. I just not sure how he was going to deal with all of that. Archers plus Goblin Brawler plus Inferno Dragon with the Graveyard on his tower, and he only takes about few hundred damage.
I told you today, Andrew, we'd see a lot of Hunter Fisherman.
Yes, sir.
Here you go, one more time. Miner Muskaloon was a variation for quite a while, but here we go, making some changes, bringing in the Hunter and the Fisherman to be a part of this one. No building in this deck that typically does run.
And one of my favorite things about the Fisherman is messing up your opponent's sequence that they're trying to put together. You see that? Valkyrie cycled in the back, but all of a sudden with the High Fisherman, Javi has to support that Valkyrie with skeletons because he wants his Valkyrie to cross the river at a later time. All that said and done, offensive sequence kind of falls apart, and Diego E gets to get a little bit more damage on tower.
That high delivery, huge for Diego E. Cleans up the archers on the back end. Of course, having to spend a lot of troops. This will be some significant poison value given towards Javi Catorze as we reach the final 30 seconds of regulation.
Hunter stays alive. Archer's up high to take the Hunter off the board, but the bats will distract. And that balloon, wow, great Goblin Cage.
Yeah, Cage pulls that balloon pretty much all the way back. The balloon does not connect, so Inferno Dragon gets distracted once, twice by the Miner and the Bats, but time bought by Javi Catorze. Excellent management on that right-hand defense.
Yeah, an incredibly close game here, separated by less than 50 HP. Miner goes in. Hunter up high to catch that Valkyrie.
And look at the placement of the Goblin Cage here, knowing this Inferno Dragon was no longer able to play defense against that balloon on the right-hand side. Says, fine, if your balloon's not going to, if my Inferno Dragon's not there for your balloon, I'll bring your balloon to my Inferno Dragon.
Really, really nice there from Javi to bring it over into the DPS that he needed. And here we go, Inferno on top of that Ice Golem. Not quite where Javi wanted it.
Snowball should come in for the Bats, but it does push the balloon towards the tower. That's going to be a huge connection here. Tower not quite down, but in a ton of trouble on the right-hand lane.
Miner goes inside. A snowball being played a half a second late is going to be the reason we see Diego E take the first game of King of the Hill off of our former West champions, if he can defend this push.
Hunter playing defense, Snowball trying to make a little bit extra room. Those skeletons doing some damage.
Skelly's on the tower.
Pick up this miner.
He picks it up. Skelly's on tower, 83 to 356. Cannot spell out is Diego E.
Valkyrie playing some defense. Inferno Dragon high. Snowball to push that balloon back. Is that balloon to get death damage?
Yes,
that balloon's going to do it. Good game. Oh no, the cage pulls the balloon back. The miner gets caught. This is absolutely insane defense from Javi right now. Another balloon down. Graveyard trying to beat it out. Does Javi have
for the
ability
snowball
to get this damage
Oh, he's not going to get there in time.
back for SK Gaming?
Yeah, so Diego E, great little Goblin Barrel to start, and if you notice that Log plus Skeletons played just in time to get damage on the tower, and of course, stop all the damage.
And so the Heal Spirit will clean up most of that, but wow, that's a few hundred HP of damage that maybe Sam didn't expect to take.
Yeah, I don't think that was, the Heal Spirit was played exactly how Sam wanted it. Maybe we see some Skeletons here to catch the Bandit. Yes, we do.
So Log and Ewiz, or Log primarily for the Goblin Barrel, Goblin Cage, Ewiz, and Heal Spirit. Sam should have the tools to deal with the Skeleton Barrel, but again, it's about momentum. He's fallen behind early. Diego E's having a great day today.
Yeah, and then you see all these cards put together, and you know, wonder if we'll see Ram Rider.
With the Heal Spirit, you typically feel like it's Ram Rider rather than the Battle Ram. So I think it's a good call there, Andrew.
So here we go, taking a lot of damage, but then the Inferno Tower comes down, probably not getting as much out of this push as Sam would have liked, plus a ton of damage on that top right-hand side.
Sam's pretty significantly ahead. I wonder if he does go with something at the bridge now. The advantage, no, he sets up in the back with the Bandit instead.
Yeah, maybe he goes Ram Rider behind Ewiz to support, or no, he's just kind of resetting and setting up, playing very, very patient. And that's something that's important to note is that, you know, when you take a massive amount of damage, you don't need to go boom or bust. You still have time to recover. That's still a lot of damage to come in on the tower for Diego E. So Sam, I think, actually making the correct decision.
Yeah, not pressing the Elixir advantage is the more curious part of that than anything, but Sam's the pro, and we're the guys watching, and it's Royal Hogs. So we finally do see the Germans bringing out their favorite card.
Yes, sir. Royal Hogs and Ewiz behind, though. Going to be very, very easy cleanup. With that Dark Goblin in the back, now a barrel in. Sam's in trouble.
High Goblin Cage, Log to wipe the rest of that one off. Does have a Bandit and a Brawler coming behind it fairly soon. Log, though, not in cycle right now for that next Goblin Barrel that should be coming in just a moment.
And you know, every other team in playoffs right now are watching what Diego E is doing to SK Gaming, recognizing that this guy has played stellar in 2v2 and has not yet lost in King of the Hill. I think it adds a whole new level of threat and skill for Cream.
A missed delivery from Diego E. That's a big one. There's a healthy Magic Archer. Bandit now at the bridge. Mega Knight trying to make some room. Does he have enough to play defense here? And the Ewiz cleans it up. 297 on the right-hand side. Wow, Diego E in a good spot. Sam putting the pressure on.
Sam really going hard. There is the Royal Delivery, or the Royal, delivery right on top. Magic Archer behind, but delivery played offset to the right. No damage going to come through for that Magic Archer. Diego E is playing this picture perfect.
This is really phenomenal from Diego E. Goes a little jukey in the back there with that Goblin Barrel, and that gives plenty of value to the Log. So now, again, a slight Elixir advantage for OP Sam. Is there any way for him to capitalize? Let's see if it's going to be pigs to the left.
Here's the thing, is when you're playing against a deck like this with as much firepower as Diego E has, or excuse me, that Sam has, is you can turn the tide of a game in one interaction. If your opponent misplays their defense and they're behind an Elixir, you can just keep pouring it on. But right now, Diego E not quite giving that to the German.
So there we go, a really jukey barrel way to the back there. Ewiz will play defense on that side. We should see a Log come down, although death damage does come in. And now Diego E in a really great spot. Just needs 2 Logs or a little bit of damage from a Goblin Barrel to take this win.
This is a pretty healthy Mega Knight. Gonna get supported by the Bandit, though, Rich. This is kind of what we're talking about. Hogs come in behind, and that is a ton supported. Look at that. Bandit's still healthy.
19 HP. Will a Log beat this out? Magic Archer trying to get the damage on tower, and it does. Wow, Diego E. Man, the Cream Real Betis, I've said it before today, I'll say it again. They must be so happy with this pickup because he has exceeded expectations, I think, that anyone set for him this season.
Completely, including, I don't want to speak for you, but including myself. I did not expect Diego to be as big of an integral part of CRL 2020. He is so important. He is the same level as any other superstar in the game because of what he's done for Cream.
So, Mortar for Diego E.
And now he's just trying to win me over.
Wall breakers for Mortar. Yeah, now he's just trying to play to the crowd here. Mortar Miner. The bats might have been a bit of an overcommitment there. Realize, not keeping in mind the bomb tower does have a death bomb. So 2 elixir there, kind of thrown away.
Miner 2, yep, right on top of that Musketeer. Skelly's to surround, but Wallbreaker's on the right-hand side, and Rich, that's exactly what you're talking about with that 2 elixir being wasted. There's 2 elixir he needed to defend.
And you see it was just a little bit of a elixir disadvantage, and now we're all even, but with Morten having a significant advantage in damage.
And there's a reason why Morten loves these Wallbreaker decks so much. Not only is it just a lot of quick damage, is that something that Morten likes, quick cycle that he likes, but the biggest thing about it is watching his opponents make mistakes in elixir preservation. He'll do it over and over again. You'll see him send in Wallbreakers to the opposite lane, send him in naked, send him in supported for things like this. A double connection.
Wow, that entire sequence was absolutely beautiful. Maybe we'll take a look at that one in our replays. Getting the Miner onto the Musketeer, the Skellies go for the surround, but able to make up enough room that that Miner's still alive to tank for the wall breakers.
And this is what we're talking about, the hypo-aggressive play here from Morten, especially getting into double elixir time, but he's going to be relentless. Miners are going to come in, wall breakers are going to go opposite lane. A great catch, though, there by Diego.
But wall breakers are the opposite side here one more time, and sometimes it's for a connection, sometimes it's for pressure, and this time Diego E does not relent to that pressure, realizes that the game is on the left-hand side, and in that situation had to give up the damage on the right.
But that's the last one he gets, right? He doesn't get to keep letting these through. He has to start defending them because all of a sudden when you have both your towers low playing against wall breakers, you're in a world of hurt. So one thing that I'm surprised Diego E hasn't done is maybe use his mortar a little bit more defensively in the middle of the map, not only to help with the wall breakers, but also to help with other units crossing the river like the spear goblins.
So here we go, Knight played on defense by Diego E, and a Miner does get some more damage, only about 500 behind, so not an insurmountable lead, but there is dual lane pressure right now from the German.
Yeah, and you see that bridge battle going out. You know, Skellies, Zap, Snowball, Bats, all that being played just so this Knight can cross the river.
And this high mortar does get a connection, so every time that happens, you get one shot from a mortar and you've gotten what you really needed from that mortar as long as it plays defense.
And that's what I'm talking about. You get that high mortar in the center, not only do you add a little bit of offensive pressure, but you've got a great amount of defensive presence on the map. You see right there, wall breakers go to it, helps the Miner on the back of the tower, pulls the Knight in on the left-hand side. This is something Diego should have done much earlier in this matchup.
Yeah, that's going to be it, though. You see Morten recognizing the skeletons are out of cycle, goes Miner to the back, knowing there really is nothing there to play defense.
And kind of just to piggyback on your thought there, Rich, that was the first time in the Bren Chong Cup where I was really familiarized with Pedro. And the people that I saw him take out and the way that he did it was absolutely jaw-dropping. I was so excited that he was going to be here at CRL West 2020. I was just hoping he was going to make it. And now that he's here, and now we've seen him play, he is not disappointed.
Pedro with the defensive Miner. Look at that sequence. Knew that he had to stop the wall breakers high. Defensive Miner. Brilliant, brilliant work from Pedro to keep that damage off town.
And so this is interesting because I'll be honest, I don't think I want to play wall breakers against Morten playing wall breakers. He seems to be a guy that's usually got the advantage when it comes to this archetype, but we'll see. Pedro maybe looks at it and goes, I can play this better than you, and we're not looking at a mirror matchup, so we'll see which wall breakers come out on top.
One thing I am curious about, Andrew, is the way this Fisherman comes into play. You know, if you start seeing Morten run certain types of defenses against the wall breakers, can the Fisherman come in and maybe disrupt some of that defense as time goes on? It seems like it might be a little slow, but the key for Pedro might be some good defenses with the Fisherman and then timing some of these pushes as the Fisherman moves across the bridge.
A 100% agreement with you there. I think the Fisherman to stop Wallbreaker's pushes is going to be a big thing for Pedro, and then turning that into a counter push. That being said, Morten knows that Fisherman can completely stop his Wallbreakers and turn something into a counter, so he's probably not going to allow that to happen by pouring more down at the river with those Wallbreakers.
Log really not doing what Pedro wanted, I think, in that situation, so here we go. The Fisherman now going to run right into the Knight. They're pulling back over, and Wallbreakers now come in behind.
Yeah, high bats there, going to make that an easy cleanup, and should not provide enough protection here for the Fisherman.
Miner bats right-hand side, and Fisherman again trying to pull this Miner into a position. So far, that's two Fisherman pulls that maybe look like they're intending not just to pull the Miner, but maybe turn it into a King Tower activation. Neither one getting it done. I don't know if I haven't played the new Fisherman at this range in so long. I don't remember if it actually activates the Miner at this stage.
Yeah, and you see here the poison finally coming out for Pedro, running basically Miner poison control with obviously the wall breakers in there, and he's going to start doing that a lot more. He's going to start going with the Miner poison in, because the responses that Morten has, if the Knight's not in play, it's all poisonable.
So another defensive Miner play here from Pedro to tank a bit for those small DPS troops.
Does get one little bat bite there in, but Pedro probably wishing he had that Miner to turn into offense with those bats, but had to use it defensively.
Here we go, sudden death overtime. Morten slightly ahead, but by a margin that can change in the blink of an eye.
And you see there Morten going with the log, looking to catch the skeletons that he thought Pedro might play. Pedro, though, doing the very intelligent thing and changing up his defense, making it very hard for Morten to land any sort of predictive play, which is something he's really known for.
So Hunter's still alive on the board, but Morten's starting to pull ahead on Elixir, so you see starting to pour it on the right-hand lane. Miner goes to the high inside corner to make some room for this push to come on through, and that's a double wall breakers connection.
Both wall breakers connect, and the Miner is now out of cycle, along with the Spear Goblins coming through. Morten gonna even things up, and all of a sudden, you find yourself in a winner-take-all best of one with Morten and Belican, and that is not a position I want to be in if I'm Cream.
Splitting things up one more time, and this time the Miner gets eaten up by the Fisherman and Bats. Miner poison opposite direction. We are triple Elixir. Opposite direction, Wallbreaker pressure on the left-hand side from Morten.
Wallbreaker connects again on the left-hand side. 843 and 480 to 1251 and 2046. Morten giving a lot of log value.
The left-hand lane. This is a lot of value coming the right-hand side. A Royal Delivery after that should clean it up nicely. There you go. Miner on the tower, 200 HP on the right-hand side.
Wallbreakers go left again. Spear Goblins support the right-hand side. Miner back in once again. Not. Yes, it is picked up by those skeletons, but the log comes in. We are going to game 5.
755 on the top-hand side. That's a lot of poison value. This Miner gets caught one more time. Andrew, it's going to be 2 more logs here for Morten. He's trying to close this thing out, but he's up against poison. The Miner gets on tower. Does his Miner get on tower as well? No, the skeletons pick it up. 231. That's going to be it. Morten each other a lot competitively over the years. Both top-tier players, both in competitive and ladder. Personal best for Morten, above 8.6. For Belican, above 8.5.
He's doing it. He's what's it called? Ice Rocket? Nope, not going to be Rocket. But it's... Okay, so he's going to go Poison. It's got to be a Graveyard.
Yeah, there you go. Looking like Graveyard for Morten. For a second, it felt like it, though, didn't it?
It sure did.
First 45 seconds away, and a slightly bloodied nose on the right-hand tower of St. Belican, but that's about it.
Yeah, we've seen this combination before. When you see the Flying Machine, you see the Mega Knight, you have to think maybe we're going to see some Royal Hogs as well.
Ice Whiz at the left-hand lane. So far, it's interesting to see Morten in this situation go with a very control-based deck. Just, I want to be able to play defense and everyone want to be caught out.
Yeah, you know, this deck is a pretty great response to a lot of archetypes out there. The one that we see Graveyard struggle the most against, though, is something like Expo, which I'm imagining he wasn't putting Belican on to play.
It's also interesting to see Morten go Graveyard again in a Game 5 playoff situation like
Wow.
this.
Yeah.
Of course, going back to that matchup between Surgical Goblin and Morten, I think that was Surgical Goblin playing bridge spam against Morten's Graveyard in that one. And you saw how close that one came out, so it seems to me Morten has a pattern here. When it's all on the line, go Graveyard.
So here we go, lot coming across the river here for Morten. Graveyard coming out finally as we get to double elixir time. And I do not think that sequence went the way the Belican thought it was going to.
No, not at all. Flying Machine gone, a pile of damage in, and Morten now with a significant lead with 45 seconds left in regulation.
That is a huge, huge lead. Cage comes out to catch all this. Couple hogs are going to sneak through, but you have to imagine Morten probably has Tornado as well. Doesn't even feel the need to use it, though, because he has such a massive damage lead.
Here we go. Pigs do get a little bit of damage, but still not quite enough to get him back in the mix. Mega Knight sets up for the left-hand lane.
Barbarrel comes out to keep that Ice Wiz on the board. Mega Knight going to leap again on top of that. Maybe that Barbarrel was a little bit of an overspend from Morten.
Here we go. Sudden death overtime. Final game of the final set of quarterfinals. Winner goes on to face Misfits in the semis.
Yeah, and you know Misfits are watching every second of this match, trying to figure out everything they can about who they may play. Nice high poison there from Morten, going to keep that Flying Machine at bay because of the Goblin Cage, take the Flying Machine off the map. Morten's still in a very, very healthy lead.
Pelican's done a good job of locking down the damage on the left-hand side. Morten does have dual lane pressure at the moment. And adds in a little King Tower activation just for good
A little
measure.
insult to injury there. Now going to be able to help out with the Goblin Cage. Is that King Tower activation? Mega Knight, though, crossing the river. Healthy Mega Knight. Knight comes down to meet it. Pelican really, really having a difficult time creating any sort of offense other than that one hog push.
And a smart high poison here from Morten, knowing the Baby Dragon would stick all that in it and get the Flying Machine down, but now 9 elixir at the bridge.
So here we go. Barbarrel comes in, actually doesn't hit the Bandit there, so Bandit going to get picked up by the Brawler and tank for those hogs.
Quite a lot of damage on the right-hand side, 14-19, so Belican certainly alive at the moment, sets the line high with the Cage against the Graveyard, and another good poison, this time getting some value. Flying Machine and Hogs going in the opposite lane.
Flying Machine Hogs opposite lane, but that E was maybe played a second too early on the left-hand side. A lot of damage coming in here for Morten. St. Belican, 549, but getting some damage in on that top right tower, bringing his opponent's tower to just above, or just below 1200 HP.
Final 28 seconds, Graveyard in on the left-hand lane, Goblin Cage on both sides, one preemptive, one reactive, and now we have the Graveyard trying to chip away, Skeleton's getting in, Heal Spirit goes right-hand lane, final big pig push coming for Belican, can he break through?
Here it is, you know it was coming with that high Flying Machine to take that Goblin Cage off the board. Goblin Cage back around though, looks like SK's going to the semis, Rich.
NATO to clean things up, Morten comes out with a huge reverse sweep, clutches it up in a